What you need to really understand is that you are in for an industry in the future which is already having a platform. So if you look back to the TV or the radio, it took nearly decades to get it into mainstream. So if you were to advertise on something and leverage on something out of that, it would have taken really years. But today, if you start up maybe a restaurant, maybe you go for a boutique hotel, or maybe you do anything related to hospitality industry, the potential is out there. That is enormous, right? So it's about online branding and customer relationship management. I'm Dilhan. I represent a company called Cake Labs, and I'll give you a bit of details of this later. But let's go through my presentation and let's see what you could get out of it. So just to give you a basic agenda of what I'm actually going to look at. So technology, in terms of technology adoption. So the topic of this conference is ICT for the Sri Lankan industry. So that's a very timely topic, and I think it's actually really a relevant one. And let's see how that adoption has happened, as well as look at some of the aspects of an online branding and CRM, and look at the Cake platform. So I represent a company which does technology for the restaurant industry. So let's see what we have to share with you all, so that you all can really experience a true potential of what this technology has to do with the hospitality industry in the real world. Okay, so let's take a quick dive into technology adoption. So the theory is that from the yesteryears, like if you look at how electricity was adapted, where it was a mainstream item, it took 46 years, right? So if you look at the telephone, if you look at the radio, if you look at TV, right? And even the PC, it nearly took certain decades to make it mainstream. And if you look at the mobile phone and the web, still it took a lot of time for people to use on a daily basis. But today, the smartphone, I think you all have a smartphone, right? So most of you must be on your smartphone as well, because you're hungry, right? So maybe traversing through Facebook or anything. But the potential here is that every one of you has a smartphone, and the world has basically adopted it. So there is already a platform out there that the industry as a whole, that is your industry, hospitality, can leverage a lot of things out of it, right? So if you look at this example, I mean, you know who this is, right? And you know the product out there. So that's the iPad. If I ask you the question, how long it took to reach 50 million iPad devices, what's the guess? Like 50 million devices when they launched in 2010. What do you think? How many years? Any guesses? So actually in 2010, it took 80 days to reach 50 million. So without much of a challenge, companies like Apple reinvented a lot of activities, right? So the potential that you as students, I see a lot of students here, as well as the academia, what you need to really understand is that you are in for an industry in the future which is already having a platform. So if you look back to the TV or the radio, it took nearly decades to get it into mainstream. So if you were to advertise on something and leverage on something out of that, it would have taken really years. But today, if you start up maybe a restaurant, maybe you go for a boutique hotel, or maybe you do anything related to hospitality industry, the potential is out there. That is enormous, right? So I think the timely topic is really important, and as students and as well as academia and industry representatives, this is something very important to understand. So why this change? So you need to know what made this. So access to low-cost, high-speed internet, right? So today now you must be watching a YouTube video. I mean, you don't care about the bandwidth, right? Back then, when I was doing internet in the 90s, I used to, do a dial-up. Had to take 2-3 minutes to dial up and, got into the internet, and now it's not there anymore, right? So it's cheaper. And if you look at the smartphone, so earlier, iPhone was very costly, right? But even today, but then again, the smartphones you can buy at a very cheap price. So that's not a problem. So people are adopting very fast. Cloud computing, so things like Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Technologies, Google Data Center. So these are really helping the industry to leverage. So if I want to set up a website and run my own business, within a snap, I should be able to do that. I don't need to worry about any payments. I can just do it via my credit card, right? So things have really helped out. And products, right? So if you remember this, anybody use one of these back in the days? Maybe you all were not born. Maybe the youngsters, right? They were not born when these kind of devices were there. Actually, these existed. You can ask your parents, but the idea is things have simplified, right? I mean, to get an app out to the market, it may take maybe max 1 month, right? I mean, if you can really design it well and have good usability, it's not a big problem. Let's say you are starting up a restaurant. Getting it out there, it's not a big deal, right? So there are people who provide the services very easily. So how do you enhance this potential and this platform of the internet and the social media to leverage your business as well as the industry is a question, right? So let me ask you, why online branding? So that's my topic, online branding. What is that, in your opinion? So basically getting your brand image, your identity out. So here we have used a newer term, online. So not going through paper advertisements or maybe billboards, maybe other terms of relationship. It's via online. So why is it necessary today? So let's quickly glance through why is it needed. So 3.5 billion users online. So anybody can guess the population in the world? How much people are there in the world? Any guesses? Don't Google, right? Don't Google. More than 7 billion, right? I checked it up today morning. It was around 7.5 and counting. So it says that 3.5 billion, obviously plus than this, are online, right? So that's a huge, right? Obviously, the younger kids, maybe the toddlers are not there, so we can cut that down, right? If you look at every device, right? If you look at the availability of the web, mobile, Internet of Things, as well as on smart TV, it's 24-hour connected, right? So maybe your restaurant, maybe your hotel, maybe the work, I mean, any item that you're going to service will be available in each channel, right? 49% is on mobile, right? And 1.6 billion active FB users. So that's huge, right? So that's a huge potential. And 400 million on Instagram, as well as around 320 million plus on Twitter. So now let's say you are starting up a hotel or restaurant. Do you need to reinvent the wheel? Is this rocket science? You don't have to do much, right? You already have a platform and you just need to use it. As the other speakers mentioned, the awareness and the literacy of knowing this and using this potential is the main thing. So how can the Sri Lankan industry, like the restaurants, hotels, the travel partners, use this is the question. And not only at the domestic level, how can we leverage this to bring the international tourists into the country? This is what we have to think as students, You have to think about these things now. Definitely, yes, your co-curricula is to, create great food experiences. Yes, that's true. But then again, how do you get this into a different level is the question, right? So the question I have for you is, why not online branding? So we'll definitely need to have that, right? So just let's look at few examples of how you can do that. Let's say you're starting up. How can you really approach it? Maybe the one or two steps that you can use, which doesn't really need another company even to do that, where you can even easily handle it, right? Visually, you can start doing right now. I mean, if you have videos, if you have any illustrations, images. So think about the restaurant, right? So if you have videos of your ambience, your food, right? If you have a series of Instagram photos of your chef doing some great cuisines, that's more than enough, right, to start off with. So if you can use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram to kind of get this message out, that will be actually a good start, right? So if you look at a stat, 65% of engagement will increase if you even move your media into Facebook, right? So just take example, the chefs, aren't they become celebrities now? So they are, right? So you can be, maybe I'm in front of some celebrity chefs in the future. I don't know, right? So your presence, the chef's presence online is online branding, free of charge, nothing to do. So if I am going to a restaurant and I can see the ambience, if I can see the cuisine, I can see the people, I would really love to go there rather than without knowing being there, right? So this can be easily leveraged through the online media that we have today. So restaurants, hotels can easily use this. If you look at the engagement, so what's this? Likes, right? Tags, and any shares, comments. Now these are free of charge, right? So not only the restaurant or the hotel, you can get the customers, clients to post their pictures, post their moments, post their videos, and then you can get engaged, share, tag them, and kind of do various activities. These are free. You don't have to, pay for anything. You give a good experience to the customer. Customer will be able to post these out, right? So this is very, very basic things that the industry, I think, should follow. And in the industry, in the US to the other worlds, this is highly, highly utilized to kind of get online branding, right? The experience, once you see that, what happens? So would you go to a restaurant without no recommendations? Or if you see someone being happy, celebrating their birthday, maybe getting a great service out and posting on the Facebook with their maybe the cuisine that they have had for dinner, you would really prefer to visit that as well, rather than going to the restaurant without knowing much about it, right? So this is freely available, okay? So 1.6 billion users are there on Facebook. So how can Sri Lanka as well as the industry leverage on this? So this is a good thinking to have, right? Hashtags. So anybody on Twitter right now? Tweeting? Twitter? No one is tweeting. Okay, so hashtags. How easy is that, right? So we have around 300 million users on Twitter. We create a simple hashtag and share it as we go on, and we can just simply create a great buzz out of it, right? So let's take an example. So who has used Airbnb? Okay, great. So a lot of people have used it, right? So if you have used it, next time tag it. Tag your stay with live there, right? So if you right now go into Twitter and check live there, so there are so many posts that people are sharing across the world, right? So guys in Norway to the meals they had in another country. So it's enormous. So Airbnb doesn't have to do anything at all, right? To leverage their marketing, their branding, their presence is just enormous, and it just keeps on adding, right? So it's just a simple hashtag, right? And a similar one is handled by Cathay Pacific, right? So they have this live well, life well traveled. So they have all the moments shared by their guests or the travelers traveling around the world. So, I mean, why do you need to market about your business class when your customers are tagging and, hashtagging their experience? This is free marketing, right? Free branding. You don't need to create an advert to do that. This is genuine, authentic display of the services that is there. So think again. Do Sri Lankan restaurants, do Sri Lankan hospitality sector, the hotels, do we leverage on this? Okay, so this is where we have to think as a country and how we can really emphasize this and try to attract not only the domestic market but the international travelers, right? Not only those, the discounts, deals, contests, the best, let's say, best photo out there, or best kind of food contests. You can create wonders, marketing campaigns to attract more. So online branding is a new paradigm. It's gone to a new area. So how do you leverage this? This is thinking, right? Okay, so let's move from online branding to CRM. Now, do you have CRM in your modules? Do you learn that, or have you have experience with CRM? What is CRM? Customer relationship management. What do you think? So today when I came here from the institute, the customer relationship manager were very good, right? So how these guys handle how the students kind of greeted us, how they looked after, it's amazing, right? So I'm really happy that Sri Lanka is teaching kids and the youngsters to get into that level. So it's about all service, right? So if you are treated well, obviously you will return back, right? But unfortunately, Sri Lankan restaurants, even where we have visited, certain times they don't know how to kind of get the experience going. They would have invested heavily on their infrastructure, nice location, nice surrounding, maybe food is okay, but the service has been very poor. So I have basically gone to many restaurants. I have thought never I'm going to go back because the service has been really bad. So that's one area that is related to CRM. So basically it's about converting new clients into regular guys. So if you ask me, will I come back for another conference at CALM? Yes, I would, because definitely I was given a good service. But if the restaurant or the hotel cannot do that again, obviously that's lost business, right? So can we retain loyal customers? Okay, that's also good. And can we bring back lapsed customers? So this is also something very important. So if you have gone to a restaurant and you have not appeared for a long time, how do you bring them back? So now think about it in terms of technology. So how can we do this? So the hotels you visit today, the restaurants you visit today, do they keep a track of these things? So next time you go there, do they greet by your name? Or do they, serve, customize a meal according to you? Maybe you have, as an example, you have blood pressure. So obviously salt is not good for you, right? So will they alter that? I mean, I doubt. Where can you give me an example unless it's a very high-end restaurant? So we have to embark on this customer relationship journey in new ways. I'll just quickly glimpse through a few areas how we can achieve that through technology, right? So as I explained, health and wellness is totally different today, right? So if people are greeted in different ways, they can be treated as well. So what types of food they eat, or what types of, maybe from a hotel's perspective, the shampoos to conditioners they use. So how do you really track these data? Can you keep note of them in a book? No, obviously not, right? So these are the things that the innovation in the hospitality industry basically does in the current world. And most of the, hotels as well as restaurants have invested heavily on things like mobile check-in, or getting a restaurant point of sale to your table rather than going to a queue, or can we get your door opened through your mobile phone rather than giving you another card, where check-in delays are taken off, and can you basically check in through your smartphone. So these are the technologies that are reshaping. So in terms of CRM, you could buy a product called maybe Salesforce, or maybe Infusionsoft, or just get another database to yourself. But how do you leverage this and connect that, and how do you inbuild that into your restaurant, your hospitality industry, or your hotel is a big question, right? So loyalty programs. So how many of you have loyalty programs related to hotels, restaurants you visit? So gift cards, loyalty cards, membership cards, where you go back again and you get redeemable points. Well, these are the things we have to integrate with the technology. And how do you kind of leverage that into bringing back new customers? And engagement. So how do you track what people do at a restaurant? When you come to a restaurant, how much of people come, where they sit, what are the food they eat, what preference they have, what is the time. So engagement tracking in terms of technology today is huge. So social Wi-Fi, it's a new concept, right? And things like iBeacons, which can track people through Wi-Fi or through kind of remote devices through your mobile. So these are technologies that are changing the industry in the US to the European markets. So how we can leverage these things into the Sri Lankan industry is, I think, another question that we have, right? And so how do you dine? Do you just walk into a restaurant, or do you check on Yamu or Zomato before you go in? What do you do? So do you just blindly go to a restaurant today? It's very rare, right? So ideally, either you will go to TripAdvisor, or maybe you will go to Yamu or Zomato, or check their recommendations, check all the material that is available, and then you will take a decision. So likewise, in terms of hotels, recommendations, if you go to Agoda and if you log in and if you have your data, obviously they will give you recommendations for all the travels in the future. Like what Amazon does to you while you shop, the industry on the hotels does to you while you look for hotels, right? So the industry, the data, everything is changing rapidly. And is your restaurant out there? Is your hotel in Yelp? Or is it listed in Zomato or whatever application is a question you need to ask, right? Disruption. So the challenge earlier was how quality of service can happen, how Hilton or Marriott or whatever chain gives you quality of service. But today, disruption in technology has created not a customer to seek quality in a large hotel, but to seek happiness in a different location, like home, through a platform such as Airbnb, right? So if you want to go to Prairies, maybe you will not stay at Hilton. You will, book your room or house or whatever through Airbnb. So things have changed. So B2B, or the customer to business, has changed to a customer to customer, basically, right? So disruption to technology to customer relationship management has changed over the decades, and I think these are things that will help you to understand the dynamics. Right, so let me just give you a very glimpse, 1 minute glimpse about Cake, what we do, so that it will kind of give you idea of what I have mentioned as well. So we are a company owned by Cisco, one of the largest companies in the US, ranked 50s in the Fortune 100. And so basically, this company is a food distributor, one of the largest in the world. So the market or the tech market that we are in is something like this. So just think about a restaurant, right? So for a restaurant, you will have your restaurant discovery, right? So if you want to eat lunch today, you're hungry, right? So let's say you want to search for a good restaurant, you will go to maybe Zomato or Yelp or maybe Facebook and try to search for the cuisine that you want. So that's called discovery. And then maybe you will do a reservation, okay? You will call the restaurant or hotel and do a reservation. So that's a reservation technology. And there are players in the market as well. So then once you arrive, you will be seated, you will be given the menu and all that. And then you will have to order through a point of sale and do payments, and maybe later on your CRM or your customer data is retained for retention. So this entire cycle, it's actually a platform, and there are multiple players worth billions of dollars in terms of software out there in the US and the other markets, right? So what Cake has provided is a kind of a end-to-end platform which connects the entire spectrum and not have silos in the areas. So from your dining, how do you connect, how do you discover restaurants, to how guest management happens, how do you seat your guests, and how do you order, how do you pay via a point of sale and do the payments via a payment gateway, and then how do you analyze and how do you track your data. So this is what we've been building, and we have been serving the US restaurants within the last 4 to 5 years, around more than 3,000 restaurants. So what we talk in reality, the theory and all that is practiced in Sri Lanka and developed here to kind of serve the world, right? So the booth, there is a booth out there. Just go and have a look of the technology that we built and what powers some of the biggest restaurants in the US. So ideally, you will get some good knowledge out of what we spoke in terms of theory, really being practiced in reality, right? So basically, just to give you a glimpse of today, we process more than $1 billion in sales, and average 2.5 million of dollars revenue happens today through our platform, and around 45 million guests have been already seated. As an average today, maybe around 16,000 people are seated in the US through our product, and around 130,000 orders happen daily, and growing with Cisco at around 250. So this is really great, and I feel that students, especially academia, should kind of get more knowledge on this, and we will definitely love to help the students out as well. And so thanks a lot for your time. Keep in touch with me if you need any clarifications, guidance on technology sector of the industry. And thanks Kasun and the team and CEO and the staff for inviting me. And I wish you all the very best with this conference. Thank you so much, and have a great evening.